Welcome back to 4 for 4's the most accurate podcast. As always, I'm your host, John Daigle, and today is a very special day. Not only because we are only 7 days, 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 only. Here we are.
Seemed to frozen on 7 days there.
David, I'm going to apparently just let you have it 1 second. Hold on. I'm setting up a camera now. That has never happened before.
It was interesting.
Sal, can you hear me?
I got you.
There we are. You have me, David. That's what matters right now. So anyways, we are here now to talk with the insiders of the teams that I believe are the most likely to make a deal. And that starts with you, David Newton, of course, of ESPN. And where I want to start with is, are you of the belief after deals for Sam Darnold and CJ Henderson, the Panthers, of course, are without a second and third round pick? So are you of the belief, like many we are hearing, that Carolina's first option is not to stay put, but to trade back for the best offer?
Well, if they can get that, I think that's the most ideal situation. Again, if they believe in one of those players that falls to them at number 6, I think they'll go ahead and take it. If their number one guy on their board, or the guy they really want, covet, is there, they'll go ahead and take it. But I really believe they'd love to pick up one of those second and third round picks they don't have, so they have something for the second day. So if they could trade back maybe to 10, 12, 13, 14, I think they would probably do that and still feel they could get a player that they would help their roster, either quarterback or an offensive tackle.
Well, let's actually play out those scenarios. And I want to start from the back, as you did, and pretend as if the Panthers do get their wish and trade out for multiple picks. So if that happens, what is the plan with this handful of picks? And as we know, they're $30.1 million in cap space, because Kenny Pickett logically comes to mind, of course. But we could also make the case that they make that move because the cap space they have left over is to add a veteran, one of the leftovers, in like Baker Mayfield or Jimmy Garoppolo. So where in your mind do they sit with this sudden hypothetical abundance of picks?
Well, first of all, they're not going to make a trade before the draft, at least for one of the veteran quarterbacks. Jimmy Garoppolo is just too much money to invest for what he's going to want right now, and just not enough of an upgrade over what they have now with Sam Darnold. So I don't believe that happens. Perhaps Baker Mayfield, but I don't think that would happen until at best Friday, to see what happens in the first round, to see then if they could pick up an extra draft pick and get a veteran quarterback. But even then, I'm a little skeptical. I mean, I don't know if you saw the interview with the new offensive coordinator, Ben McAdoo, this week, and he came out in 2018 and he wasn't really high on Baker Mayfield, and I don't think his opinions have changed that much. So a lot of the things that he had concerns about with Baker back then, they're still concerned. So is it worth investing in him for 1 year and then taking the risk? If he does well, then you got to pay him big bucks. So I think that's what General Manager Scott Fitter has been hinting at, is if you're going to build long term, you got to get a rookie quarterback in there, a guy you can build around with a low salary cap number. So I still could see him taking a quarterback either at 6 or trade back and still get a quarterback, and maybe let Brady Christian handle that left tackle spot for now, or maybe hope they can get one of the tackles deeper in the draft. I was asking their new offensive line coach yesterday. I asked him, I said, do you see any guys that could start at left tackle down in the 4th, 5th rounds? And he said, absolutely. And here's a guy that has developed those type players in the past, Green Bay specifically. So he's developed those type players. So I believe that they haven't really taken a chance on a quarterback. They haven't taken one other none in the first round since Cam Newton back in 2011, only one overall during that time. So I think it's time for them to look at a quarterback there. But again, ideally, if they can pick up an extra draft pick, I think they do that. And who they trade with right now, several teams have been out there. I mean, I don't think they would trade within a division. I don't think New Orleans with their 2 picks would trade up. Maybe Philadelphia would trade back if they want to move up in that spot. Seattle may want to move up ahead of Atlanta and try to get a quarterback there, but it's just going to depend on who they can find as a dancing partner.
Is there another wild card position they consider? Because we all, for every reason you mentioned, Brady Christensen in particular, keep linking them strictly to quarterback and offensive lineman. Is there another position they would look to if the dominoes don't fall correctly and they're left just a pick from the top of their board?
Yeah, I mean, if the Michigan defensive end slipped all the way down to them, I think they would have to, if they didn't jump all over that, I would think they'd be crazy. Because I think he's a game changer. I don't think that's going to happen, so nothing to worry about there. But I really believe that the best talent right now is going to be at left tackle, probably the best overall player. So they'll have that choice, and it's just going to be then, do they value that left tackle versus the quarterback more?
Now let's play out that second scenario, and let's assume the Panthers don't get the right offer and they end up staying put. And to your point, with not only Christensen, but with Austin Corbett, Taylor Moton, Bradley Bozeman as well, there's a clear need for at least one more strong offensive lineman, even left tackle, as you mentioned, ahead of week 1. And so if we believe that's the direction they're going, do you think they would stick with tackle specifically in that spot, like an Ike Ekwonu if he slides, or Charles Cross, who we expect to be there at 6? Or would they be comfortable going a interior player that might be higher on their board, a la Evan Neal?
Yeah, I mean, Neal would be an interesting one if he would have fallen there. I think that would be a player that would be tempting for them if he was available versus the quarterback. But I just got a hunch that they've made their mind up that if a Malik Willis type player is there, not a type player, if Malik Willis is there, mm-hmm. I feel like that might be the guy they'd love to have. I just got a vibe about the staff when they were at the pro day there. The smiles on their faces, the way they talked about him, the way he can be a game changer. And listening to what McAdoo said the other day, where he was like, I'm a guy that, wants to kind of basically throw caution to the wind a little bit with that pick. And that would be that type of player. Because remember, here's a guy that a few years ago, when he was evaluating Patrick Mahomes, he had his sights set on him, but Kansas City jumped up there and took him. So I think he probably looks at Malik as a little bit of Patrick Mahomes. So again, he hasn't said that to me, but just reading between the lines and what he said, talking to him a little bit at the pro day and a few other people, that's just where I'm leaning right now. I mean, I may change my mind between now and draft day, but right now I kind of got that feel that that's where they're at.
It was a bit of a Freudian slip whenever McAdoo did mention that Sam Darnold was the starter, because you couldn't tell if it was an accident and he had heard that before, or if he was just doing the McAdoo dorky things and just like forgetting he's not supposed to say that. That's why I keep coming back to with that one slip up he had. If they do stay at 6, though, because barring something absurd and off the wall, in my opinion, I think Malik Willis's only option in those top 5 picks would be a surprise selection at number 2 overall. So if Malik Willis is there at 6, would they forego a Charles Cross or Ike Ekwonu and go to Willis instead? Or do you think that's more of an option if they decide to trade back and have those multiple picks?
Well, I mean, the tackle would be a tough decision there, because I don't think Cross was a guy they'd rather have at 6. He's been in a more of a pass-happy offense, and he's a great pass blocker. But if you look at what McAdoo wants to do, he wants to throw the ball, but he also wants to run the ball and build a power running game. And Charles Cross hasn't shown he's that type of blocker yet. So I think if one of the other two, Neal and Ekwonu, is there, that would be the one that they would have to be tempted to take. But I think overall, that quarterback, I mean, it's just been a long time since they've taken a quarterback. And you know how David Tepper really wants a franchise quarterback. And sometimes you got to roll the dice out there and take a chance. I mean, here's a guy in McAdoo again. I'm not so sure he didn't throw that out there to throw people off target, just to say, we've got our quarterback, Sam Darnold's our guy. I think he's smarter than to just have a slip of the tongue out there and say, oh, he's our starter. It just kind of was too convenient. So I'm a little suspicious about that, because there are a lot of smoke screens this time of year. So again, I mean, he's also a guy that back in 2018, I mean, he really liked Josh Allen. He's a guy he was really high on. I think he had Josh Allen 1 and Lamar Jackson number 2. And if you look at their style of play, it's kind of a little more like Malik Willis. So again, I'm just kind of trying to, connect some dots there and just look at what he would want and what he would need. Yeah, I mean, I just think if you believe in that guy, whether you want to get him at 6 or you want to get him at 12, if you trade back, you can, if you really believe in him that much that he's the guy you want, do you take a chance on trading back and not get him? I mean, go ahead. If that point, just go ahead and take him. If they feel like there's a guy they want in the 2nd or 3rd round, trade one of your draft picks for next year and move up and get one of those guys.
Recall that Patrick Mahomes, he also wanted to move up for in draft, but John Mara would not allow it with Eli Manning still under center in New York. Before you get out of here, though, David, 1, we always appreciate your time, but 2, I would not be doing my job if I didn't put you in the hot seat and get your final take and ask what you believe the Panthers do, and if they stay put, who you think their first pick is at 6.
I think I pretty much said it. I really think if Malik Willis falls there, he'll be the pick. I just think the one missing link on this offense, I think they can survive with Brady Christensen and whoever else they put in there. I don't know if they can survive with Sam Darnold. And as much as Ben McAdoo played up Sam the other day, I'm just not sure that he was really sincere about that, to be honest. I think, again, he said he's still got some magic in him, but how much magic have we really seen out of Sam Darnold here the first 4 years? I think 4 years is pretty much proofs in the pudding there. So I think it's time for a quarterback. If Detroit takes Malik at number 2, then that means one of those left tackles is going to fall to them. They've got a choice there, one of the left tackles or even Kenny Pickett. I'm not so sure Kenny would be a bad pick at this time. But if you remember, another thing that McAdoo said, and they were talking about, he's not so sold on people saying that he's the most quarterback ready or NFL starter ready. And that's what the description on Kenny Pickett has been all along, that he's the most NFL ready. And I don't know if he was just throwing that out there just to, be another smokescreen or not. So you got to be wary of a lot you hear this time of year. But again, if you put me on the spot, I would say Malik Willis. He's just a guy. He reminds me a lot of Cam in a lot of ways. He's a better thrower than Cam, not as big and physical, but I think he's smart enough to run the offense. I think he can, as a guy that's going to be a playmaker and be an effective guy for years to come. Maybe he needs some grooming. Maybe they'll struggle at first, but I think he's a guy that really can make an impact in this league.
We have a lot to think about now, and all because of you, David Newton of ESPN. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Moving on now, with another team I expect to make a trade, it will be none other than the LA Daily News's Orange County Register's Gilbert Manzano. And Gilbert, I got to be honest with you, discussing the Chargers was not originally a part of this show. And now there has been so much discussion around LA potentially cutting the line for whichever cornerback their heart desires that I knew I had to squeeze you in last second to try to fit this conversation in and get to the bottom of everything. So let's start from the beginning. Where do the Chargers lean with the number 17 overall pick right now?
Yeah, John, I think you're onto something there. I keep thinking that they're going to trade down where they are at 17, but they do like cornerback. You saw Brandon Staley at LSU's Pro Day, getting up close and personal with Derek Stingley. So I'm going to say it's a tie between offensive tackle and cornerback. You would have asked me a month ago, it's definitely offensive tackle. You need to get a guy on the right side. They cut Brian Bulaga, and it worked out a year ago. They drafted Rashawn Slater on the left side, but they now need the opposite side. But I think Brandon Staley was not lying to us when he kept saying, we need cornerbacks. We always are going to be looking for cornerbacks. So when I saw my LSU's Pro Day with Derek Stingley, and maybe Ahmad Sauce Gardner will be, long gone by the time they pick, or if they do trade up for a corner. But I would not be surprised if they do trade up. If they see Stingley hanging around, pick 12, 13, 14, they'll get a little antsy. And even for a guy like Trent McDuffie too, I could definitely see that too.
Do you think, you mentioned 10 and 12, do you think a move inside the top 10 because they love a Stingley, a Sauce Gardner so much is possible right now?
It might be kind of a steep asking price for the GM, Tom Telesco. He got aggressive with Khalil Mack and sending that second round pick to Chicago, which is definitely worth it. But it's not really Tom Telesco's thing to get aggressive. But in the draft, he has shown to trade up, maybe not this high in this range. But you never know. Teams might get a little antsy during the day of the draft and saying, "Hey, our guy's not there. Let's get out of here." So I could definitely see that possibly. I don't know about the top 10, but definitely, like I mentioned, 11, 12, 13, 14, I could see that. And everything you kind of know about the Chargers, the way they operate in previous years with Tom Telesco for the last 10 years, maybe we should throw that out the window, because it's Justin Herbert's pretty much final year on a rookie deal. He's going to get paid probably next year. So you want to go all in and pay two receivers $20 million a year, have two pass rushers making $20 million a year, Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, before the Bills do on Justin Herbert. Why not get aggressive fully all the way and go into the top 10?
Let's go back to that tackle idea you mentioned, because it's a real possibility, if not probable, that all of Ahmad Gardner, Derek Stingley, and Trent McDuffie are off the board by 17. And if that is the case, is there a specific player at tackle that the Chargers are leaning towards, or would they feel comfortable taking an interior player like Trevor Penning and pushing him on the inside instead?
Yeah, that's kind of the biggest dilemma. I keep kind of going back and forth when I'm doing all these crazy scenarios, and it's so tough at 17 being in the middle pack for the Chargers. And if the biggest need is tackle, you hear all this big drop off after the top three guys, Cross, Icky, and Neal. And do you ask yourself, do you want to reach for a guy with Trevor Penning? People like him, but he's not as polished. He's not ready. Some people say he's kind of lacks discipline on the field, could draw a lot of flags, and do you bet on the upside? Do you bet on your coaching staff? They lost their offensive line coach, Frank Smith, to Miami, so maybe there's kind of something new going on there. Or do you lean somewhere else? Do you try to fix the run defense with a Jordan Davis? Do you finally get that burner in Jameson Williams? Or do you say, hey, we got to fix the trenches and look for the future for Justin Herbert and protect them? Because, John, you probably remember that crazy Vegas game against the Raiders Chargers for the playing game, and Max Crosby got paid going against Storm Norton there on the right side. So you need somebody there. But I don't know if Trevor Penning's a guy. They still also need a guy at right guard. They haven't re-signed Ode Abushi. So how about a guy like Zion Johnson, a guy from Boston College, to help you out there? He's more ready to go, polished. But do you want to draft a guy on the inside at number 17? Do you trade down? So I could definitely see Trevor Penning. But I know from people who I've talked to around the team, they're not as high on Penning as they are Charles Cross. If Charles Cross is there at 17, they're not going to think about it. They're going to go for him all day, every day. But with Trevor Penning, there's some thinking there. And they don't like not like him, but they're kind of thinking about it at 17.
You touched on Jameson Williams, but I'm curious, if they do lean wide receiver over offensive line, is there a specific trait they're ensuring they have in the next receiver they draft? Speed in Jameson, as you mentioned, yak ability potentially in Treylon Burks, another big-bodied threat across from Mike Williams and Drake London. Are they prioritizing one specifically?
I think it's definitely speed, but I could definitely see some yak guys involved because they don't have that. Right. Keenan Allen is great at getting open, getting you the first down on third down plays. Mike Williams kind of the jump ball guy, but Drake London is a guy who's intriguing, but you don't really need that because you got Mike Williams. So I definitely go with speed number one, and then a yak guy number two. But definitely his speed. Everything I've heard from Brandon Staley, like he wants to push the ball down the field, be aggressive. John, about the fourth down. So he wants a home run hitter. And the guy that I think does that the best, and the guy they're pretty high on for wide receiver, is Jameson Williams. Now the tricky part, you hear the smoke screens, like it starts out, at first it started out like, oh, he got hurt. He's gonna be available late in the first round, and then we're a week away from the draft. Like, actually, no, it's gonna be a top 10 pick. So you don't know where James is gonna fall. So if Jameson Williams was there at 17, and the tackles are gone and the corners are gone, I definitely see Jameson being the pick at 17. He is what they want, what they're looking for. They don't need the guys who are completed like a Garrett Wilson, because you have Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. So they're looking for one thing specifically, and it's speed.
Would they be willing to take, we mentioned Trevor Penning, right? Is there like another, like a guard you already mentioned, perhaps pushing Ode Abushi out? Would they be willing to take like a Tyler Smith or someone like that and push him on the interior? Or is it strictly really they want a surefire starter at tackle who has that experience from his collegiate years, or the opposite, someone with experience at guard?
Yeah, I think they always welcome, guys who have experience at different positions. I think that's why Zion Johnson's kind of intriguing, because he has experience at left tackle. He didn't do it well, but he has that experience. So guys who can move around are always very intriguing pieces, especially for the Chargers, who have a long history of injuries, and it happened a year ago when they lost Brian Bulaga and Odeabushi. So the more the guys can do, the better. So I could definitely see that. But the way it worked out a year ago when you got Rashawn Slater, why not kind of, play it safe and go for sure tackle? But again, it could be a smoke screen. It cannot. But Brandon Staley keeps telling the reporters that they don't feel desperate for a tackle. They have flexibility because they could kick out Matt Filer from left guard to right tackle. Maybe you re-sign Odeabushi, or the guy you got a year ago, Brandon Hymas, might be ready to go. And they have Corey Linsley, the all-pro center in the middle, kind of being the glue. So they keep telling me they have a bunch of combinations to tinker with it to make me believe that they're not going to tackle all the way. But I do think it's a priority for sure. They rather go safe. But if it's Trevor Penning and maybe a Jordan Davis or Jameson Williams, I could definitely see them saying, hey, Trevor, you're great, but we're going to pass. We're going to go for the luxury pick, Jameson Williams. Or, Brandon Staley is always saying, hey, our defense is going to be fine. But if you could just fix it so quickly with a Jordan Davis and that run defense, you're going to be fine too. So, again, I'm just giving you a bunch of scenarios because things could happen. But if you ask me about somebody that they want, ready to play today, I think they would rather go for a safe route tackle.
You gave me a lot of scenarios, but now I have to be a jerk and make you whittle them down to one. So, as I did with David Newton, I'm putting you in the spot, Gilbert, and asking, do the Chargers move up and who for? Otherwise, who are they taking at 17?
Okay, so you kind of want like a two-parter, right, on this here?
Oh, sure. One answer is two, but if you want to give two, that'd be great as well.
Okay. You know what? If they do trade up, I'll give you three names for the trade-up guys.
Ooh.
It's definitely Charles Cross. If he's somewhere in that range, 13, 14, they're going to go and get Charles Cross for sure. You fill him in with Rashawn Slater, you're good for the next 10 years probably. But I know Brandon really wants a cornerback, so it's going to be the Trent McDuffie, who might be two spots away. Maybe the Eagles might get him. You jump up to 14 or trade there to avoid the Eagles taking Trent McDuffie, because I see a lot of mock drafts going for him. And definitely Darius Stingley is the guy. He might be the guy to be more aggressive for, to maybe be top 10. I could definitely see that. But I think I keep coming back to maybe I'm overthinking it. I think Brandon Staley really wants that defense to click, to hum in 2022, kind of help out, because that was really the Achilles heel in 2021. So I'm gonna say Jordan Davis at 17. He's probably gonna be there. So go with him and don't think about it twice.
Who else would give you 3 draft picks for the price of 1 than Gilbert Manzano? Gilbert, thanks again for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, John. Appreciate the time.
To everyone still on video in the chat, just know right now we are going to take a 10, 15-minute break in this video to fix the equipment hiccups we had at the beginning and come back, let's say around 4:45 Eastern, with Nick Underhill in a separate video. So subscribe below or go to our 4for4 Football Twitter account where the video will be tweeted out live. So thank you for joining for those first two. We'll be back again, 15 minutes, I would say, with the great Nick Underhill to talk the most intriguing team of the entire draft at number 16 and number 19, Saints. Thanks for tuning in.